Hi, this is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer of Community Culture Showcase. We love to bring to your attention all kinds of wonderful events happening in the community, and we are in the midst of one of the most important kinds of events of its kind, and that is Submarine Centuries. Reminding me of a submarine. It reminds me of Subway. What can I say? I'm a New Yorker. But anyway, we're having some wonderful events in honor of that, and also some lovely things happening at our local airport, which many of you may not be aware even exists. So with me today, I have two wonderful guests. I have Catherine Young from the authority, the airport authority, and also Susan Bailey, who represents everything to do with Groton. So, yes, welcome. And
thank you, Harriet.
Great. So, Catherine, why don't you tell us a little bit about the airport? Because I think a lot of our audience may see a sign on 95 and have no idea that anything is even there.
Okay, I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us.
That's my pleasure.
The Groton-New London Airport is located at exit 87 off of I-95. But for us local folks, it's known as Tower Avenue or South Road or Pequannock Road, depending on which way you're coming from Route 1.
Okay.
And Groton-New London Airport has 489 acres.
Okay.
And we are bounded on three sides by water, the Pequannock River on one side, and then we have a little creek on the other side, and then also the Long Island Sound on the south side.
So it's a pretty nice approach.
Yes, it's a wonderful airport. We have a 5,000-foot runway and a 4,000-foot runway,
okay,
which eases traffic very much because depending on the weather conditions and the wind, etc., we can accommodate almost any kind of aircraft where people are coming for general aviation, and we are a general aviation airport.
Okay, very good. So how many planes generally come by? Because that's about the only...
Well, last year we had a total in terms of traffic count from
Yes.
our air traffic control tower. We had about 35,000.
35,000
flights,
wow.
yes.
Wow.
So we do a very brisk business, especially in the spring, summer, and fall.
Okay, and are most of the people coming from New York? Is that my guess?
You know, they come from all over. They come from New England. They come from the Mid-Atlantic states.
Oh, okay.
We have actually one of our tenants flies quite regularly over to England.
Really?
So depending on the kind of aircraft
Yeah.
and what your capabilities are, you can go far or be very close at the same time.
So this kind of events we're talking about today happens because the airport is kind of opening itself up to the public for the
Yes.
purpose of kind of showing off and...
Well, it's very important that people in our community, the residents, the business owners, visitors, have a chance to see the airport from the inside.
Okay.
That often doesn't happen for people, even frequent flyers who go to other airports. They don't get to see it from behind the fence.
Okay.
So we like to make that opportunity available. And we especially love to have the families because young people sometimes make career decisions
Right.
based on their special experiences when they're in their young years. So we want to provide that opportunity for them to see people working at the airport as well as having fun at the airport.
Oh, great. So Susan, tell us a little bit about the two major events that are coming up.
This year, as part of Submarine Century, which is a statewide initiative, but of course is centered here in Groton because it's where the submarines are.
Yes.
We will be celebrating National Aviation Day, which is every year on August 19th. This
Okay.
year happens to fall on a Friday, which is very nice for us.
Right.
The daytime airport tour, this will be the third annual, and in the past, the City of Groton's Summer in the City program worked with Catherine and the CAA and the airport people to put that on. This year, the Groton Business Association was able to take on that project. I'm hoping that we will be able to keep that project under the GBA umbrella for a very long time. It's a great way to showcase a really important economic driver for our community.
Right.
People just don't realize how much goes on at the airport. You see planes coming in, you see planes going out,
Right.
but there is so much more. So we're very happy that the GBA has taken that on. The daytime tour will be from 10 till 1,
Okay, remind us again the date.
August 19th.
Okay, and what time does it start?
10 o'clock in the morning
Okay.
until 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
All right.
And
Now,
it is a Friday.
it's a Friday. Okay. Tell us what we can expect.
Well, we open up virtually the entire facility. Most of the airport tenants, and there are varied businesses that are associated with all types of connections to aviation. So they open up for tours. There are displays, organizations that work with the airport, and Catherine can go into this more, but the Civil Air Patrol, for example, we've all heard it. Who knows what the Civil Air Patrol really does?
Right.
We want people to know.
Right.
There is a very important business at the airport called Survival Systems, and people come from all over the globe to take training for if you have to ditch an aircraft.
Absolutely.
How do you survive? How do you
Right.
survive something like that? Police departments, rescue operations, private pilots, they come from everywhere, and from Canada and from other places, throughout the world.
It's a global training center.
And they do demonstrations as part of this event,
Oh,
which
cool.
is fascinating.
Yes. Yes.
Catherine, why don't you tell Harriet a couple of the other things we got lined up?
Well, I would like to say also that, as Susan mentioned, that this partnership with GBA and then formerly with the Summer in the City program is a very exciting one, and especially important to the Connecticut Airport Authority, which is the owner and operator of the airport,
Okay.
along with the other 4 general aviation airports and Bradley International Airport.
Oh, okay.
So together, one of the things that is our primary goal is to increase business. And that goes along with community relations. So this is a
Absolutely.
great community relations
It is.
partnership,
Right.
and we really appreciate that.
Because it is true that airports can be a tremendous economic engine.
Yes, they are.
Absolutely.
They hire a lot of people, they bring in a lot of business, they can let small businesses then send stuff all
Right.
over the world
Yes.
if they know that you exist. So that, and this is absolutely not military, so there's not the guard is not there or anything like that.
Well, actually, no, that's not accurate.
Oh, good, I'm glad I'm
And
wrong.
I brought something with me to leave with you that
Okay.
describes all 5 of our airports and the economic contribution that you so well said, that talked about in terms of the numbers of persons who work directly at the airport,
Right.
and then the jobs that are generated as a result of the business that happens at the airport.
Right.
So I'll leave that with you, and one of our important tenants is the Army National Guard.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's known as the Theater Aviation Sustainment Maintenance Group,
Oh my
which
God,
is a
okay.
long way to say TASMG, which is a short way to say that it's the Army National Guard's helicopter repair facility.
Oh, that's I can understand. That I can understand.
And what they do is they actually support the various helicopters that the Army National Guard has east of the Mississippi in the New England and the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states.
That's a lot of territory.
They have a very important
Yes,
job.
yes.
And that is one of the facilities that is going to be open and available for people to visit.
Wow.
So you get to go into their hangar, they show you the aircraft, the kids can get in, or adults can get in and
Into
sit
the
in the
helicopter.
helicopters
Oh,
and look
cool.
at the equipment and talk to the pilots and
Right.
also the persons who do the repair work. And the Army National Guard is the single largest employer at Groton-New London Airport.
Oh, I'm glad I'm corrected.
Yeah, so it's a great facility, and we're very proud of it. And many of the soldiers there have actually gone on more than one deployment in the recent years.
Right.
So they serve that important function as well.
And their home based is
Yes.
this airport.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yep.
wonderful to
Yep.
know.
And many of them live right in Groton, if not very close nearby, with their families.
Oh, very
And
nice.
many of the persons who work there are career Army National Guardsmen. So we have men and women who make it their career through their entire working life.
Right.
So
You
it's
know,
a great
Harriet,
pleasure
when
to have them.
as the National Guard part of the tour, when the helicopters come in for maintenance, they pretty much take them apart and rebuild them. So it's incredibly interesting.
Right.
It really
Yeah.
is.
Right.
It's hard not to be really enthusiastic about
Right.
the things that you get to see.
And is that because at one time Sikorsky had his helicopter plant? It was in Stratford or something nearby. Is there any
Well, you know, Connecticut has a very long and we can be very proud of the history that we have of aviation, including helicopter design, building, and maintenance
Right.
for many, many years. And actually, Groton-New London Airport was the first state designated airport. And at that time, it was called Trumbull Airport because it was named after the governor at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the things I should mention, too, that during that day on August 19th, when persons come, they can, once they get a copy of what there is to see, then they can decide what they want to see.
Right.
So if they want to especially go to the Army National Guard facility, they can put that first on their list. And even if they get so excited and stay a long time, they can then choose to see other places or not.
Okay.
And what I'm really hoping, Susan, is that we have some people who came last year who didn't get to see
more.
everything they wanted
That's
to,
right.
and they come back this year.
Right.
Right.
Because we're going to have some new things this year, too.
Right, right.
So not only the evening event, which you'll talk more about, but during the day we're going to have some new aircraft that'll be available, and we are hoping to have a very special surprise for the young people. So we're working on making that happen,
Right.
and we'll be announcing that when we get a little closer to the event.
That's good.
That's our teaser.
That's the teaser. So people can actually go and not only with the helicopters, but actually with the aircraft, go get on the aircraft. And,
Yes,
Okay.
some of the aircraft will be available to look inside, get inside, take photographs.
Okay.
So it depends on where you are, what you can do. But much of it, as much as possible, it's hands-on because that's what people like to do.
Yes. Is there a flight school also at the airport?
We have 2 flight schools.
2 flight schools.
Yes, and I think I told you when we were talking on the phone briefly. Actually, I was talking to someone else about this, and because I've been talking about this so much
All the time.
So the flight school owner is a young business owner and operator who is from our area, and he actually attended a summer aviation camp.
Oh.
And as a result of that, right here in Groton, which was hosted by the Groton City Police at that time, is how he became so very interested in aviation. He's made it his career.
Wow.
And not only does he own the flight schools, but he also owns our charter airline, Action Airlines. So you know that he is going to have his aircraft on
Right.
display for the
Right.
young people to see.
Yes. How old do you have any idea how old you have to be to actually learn how to
In
fly?
order to get your pilot's license, I believe it is 17 years
Oh
old.
my God, kids.
But there's another aspect of what's going to be there, and you touched on this, which is the Civil Air Patrol.
Right.
And that organization is a nonprofit. It's an auxiliary of the U.S. Air Force. They have several missions, but one of them is to educate young people on aviation and aerospace. They do a very good job of that. Here, our squadron, which is called the Thames River Squadron, has been acknowledged and received awards for what they have done for young people in our community.
That's wonderful.
They will be present, and young people can actually join, participate on a regular basis, and their families provide a lot of support, but at a very little investment in terms of money, but the time is the investment,
Right.
is that they can actually complete their pilot's license by the time that they're 17, 18 years old.
Is there any connection with the authority in like Grasso Tech School, which is right here in town?
You know, one of our goals is to work with our technical high schools.
Okay.
And this past year, we've been working very hard with the Ellis Tech High School, which is up in Danielson, which is right next door, literally, to Danielson Airport.
Oh,
So
okay.
we've done some things in the past with El Grasso Tech, and we're hoping to be able to do some more of that, and
Right.
in fact, increase that relationship.
Because there's a big push, talking about the economic engine, here in the state to be able to keep young people
Yes.
here in the state,
Yes.
is to be able to provide them a viable career outside of working for casinos and some of the other things that have left the state, to keep them in well-paying, important, interesting jobs. And of course, this would be one of those examples of getting the high school, the community colleges, and businesses, meaning something like an airport, invested in the kids so that they, at 14, 15, get
Yes.
interested, stick around, go to high school, maybe go to one of the community colleges and find some training or internships at the airport.
Yep.
So yeah.
One of the
You're right.
wonderful things about the tour is, just to hone in on that, it's a way for people, whether kids or families or whatever, to really see how broad the field is.
Right.
And, you come for a few hours and you can get a taste of all these various opportunities without a huge time investment and say, oh, that piece could I might be interested in learning more
Right,
about that.
right.
So that's also another piece of what we do from the business aspect with the tour. I just wanted to say a little bit, Catherine was talking about how it's self-guided, and what we do is when people arrive for the tour, if they come to the main terminal, we have maps
Right.
available of the facility, and they have all of the participating sites marked. It'll have a couple of sentences on what each does,
Right.
and then the participants now have the material so that they can look down and decide, this is what I want to do. We'll have wayfinding people to help you find everything. It's really user-friendly.
Right.
And it's free.
Yes, free.
Free.
There's
on
no
an
charge.
August,
No charge.
August afternoon.
Right,
right.
right.
August morning.
Right,
I'm
right.
corrected. 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Right.
August 19.
August 19th on a Friday.
And you can find more information on it
Yes.
at the Submarine Century website, which is ctsubmarinecentury.com.
Okay.
Also at the Groton Business Association website, which is grotonbiz.com.
Okay. GrotonBiz.com
Yes.
or
ctsubmarinecentury.com.
Okay, those are a mouthful. Okay.
I know.
Susan, let's tell Harriet about the things that we're doing specifically to celebrate the submarine century. And I am very excited about one thing,
Okay.
especially is something I've often thought of. On the walls of the terminal, which we have plenty of wall space,
Okay.
and we have very interesting photograph exhibit right
Oh,
now.
okay.
However, we are going to be so fortunate. The Navy is sending from Washington, D.C., their framed painting exhibit, which is a traveling art exhibit
Wow.
of paintings that depict submarine activities,
Wow.
people, submariners, persons, or submariners. I'm not sure which one is the correct term. I've heard both. And also, it will be in color. There'll be black and white prints. These are all copies of wonderful paintings. And that will be on display starting in mid-July, all the way during National Aviation Day,
And
and
to
then
the end
up
of
until the
August.
end of August. So we're very fortunate to be the second on the list, because I know it's going over to the Groton City Hall first.
It is.
And,
okay.
but we're very happy to have that during National Aviation Day.
Right.
And then,
Catherine
Susan,
and I have seen the body of work that is going to be displayed.
Right.
And there are some truly beautiful
Right.
pieces of art that are
Right.
included in this exhibit. It's not all technical. Technical artwork is very interesting,
Right.
but there is a lot of more representational and impressionistic, and
Ocean
that
scenes,
type.
that
Yeah,
kind of
it's really very nice.
That is wonderful.
Yes.
That is wonderful.
So that'll be part
so
of it.
tell us a little bit more about what we can expect in the morning tour.
The morning, we will have, we also are working on getting some naval aviation for static display. We will have I'm working on a project with the Submarine Century people. They have a Instagram promotion. I'm
Okay.
not very Instagram savvy.
Yeah, me neither. but-
Hashtag Submarine Proud.
Say it again.
Hashtag Submarine Proud.
Okay.
And people take photographs of themselves or of a whatever that is their reason for being proud of their connection with submarines. And the reason for this initiative
Yes.
is that 90% of the people in this area have some connection, but many don't realize it.
Okay.
It may be your kids have classmates that are Navy families. Your business does work with the Navy,
Yes.
or your customers are Navy families. So there are many
Right.
ways, and it's to build awareness of that. And one of the projects that I developed is Flagline. and we will be having that at various Submarine Century events all through the summer, starting next Tuesday at the Washington Park event, which you can find on ctsubmarinecentury.com.
Okay.
So I'll have individual pieces of cloth, and we have a submarine proud, a banner and whatnot, and you can take your picture and write on your flag, what makes you submarine proud? What is your connection? And we will be having people do these throughout the year, and we will be displaying them on strings as we go forward with the Submarine Century celebration. And we did a smaller version with Coast Guard last year. It was really fun.
Okay.
And so I have high hopes for this event. And we will have it at the airport.
Okay.
We will have some Navy activities and displays, so there's quite a lot.
Another thing is that when you come into the terminal, as Susan mentioned, and you find out what there is to see,
Right.
not only will there be the displays in the terminal, but also you'll be able to go right out through the door onto the ramp,
Okay.
which is something that normally you can't
No
do
one
because
does.
of security, right?
Right,
Airport
right.
security. So you'll be able to go right out and be next to, visit the aircraft, talk to the pilots. And we also are going to have some of our airport equipment because, as you know, an airport is large and it requires a lot of maintenance.
Yes.
And so our
And
staff,
large equipment.
yes. So our staff will have our aircraft rescue, firefighting trucks there.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, we will have our snow removal equipment and some of our mowing equipment because if you take a look at the photograph of the
Right.
airport, we've got a lot of grass to mow.
Right.
And when it snows, we've got a lot of pavement to
Okay.
clear the ice and snow.
Right. Right. Well, because it's a big facility, so that's why you need all this kind of stuff.
Out at the airport, surrounded on 3 sides by,
By water?
birds drop shells. That's how gulls open shells. So that's
They
another
drop a
thing.
lot of other stuff as well.
Again, these pieces of awareness.
Sure,
You know, so.
of course. And also the opportunity that, just like I was saying, I was in LA recently, so people think entertainment industry, oh, it must be just the acting. Well, the real jobs are all those technical jobs behind it.
Behind the scenes,
So
right.
when you go on a plane, it's not just the pilot and the co-pilot, it
Right.
is everything else involved with it. So that, you know, makes people more aware of other things that they might
Right.
be willing and able to do. I was just going to get curious, what's the connection, if anything, except just promotion, between the Submarine Century and actually the airport? I mean, is there
Catherine has
Oh.
some great history on the Navy and the airport. Give Harriet
Yeah, so we
that
have
info.
some history. And also, what happened was, as I understand it, was that the GBA was really interested in continuing what had happened with the tours before. And we decided, what should we do that is going on anyway to have a special activity with the Submarine Century celebration? And that's how we came up with the marriage
Okay.
of air and sea.
Okay.
And actually, the airport, after it was first established by the state, it then was turned over to the Army.
Okay.
And in World War II, we had grass or turf runways. And then in World War I, we had the grass turf runways.
Oh,
and in
okay.
World War II, it was then turned over to the Navy. And the Navy actually used it for their operations, and they designed the layout of the airport as you see it today. They paved the runways and taxiways.
Oh, okay.
And when World War II was over, then they turned it back to the state.
Ah.
So we have a lot to thank the Navy for
Right.
creating the airport that we have.
Okay, so there's the historical connection. And-
Yes.
And did the Navy actually use it in World War II for aviation purposes?
Oh yes,
Of the
oh
planes,
yes,
the
yes,
helicopters?
yes. That's why
Okay.
they also laid out something that sometimes people don't know, because of the water and the tides that we have. And you know that we're not really very far above sea level. In certain portions of the airport, we're about 10 feet above sea level.
Okay.
And so, in some respects, we're kind of a floating peninsula, right? So we have these underground drainage pipes. And those were all designed also by the Navy in order to maintain the airport as it is today.
Oh, that's great.
But you know, the other connection that we have right now is we are a very critical asset or resource for the Electric Boat General Dynamics, place where they're building the subs.
Right.
And their employees and also their consultants and contractors and other support persons for the building of the submarines are using the airport daily, Monday through Friday, for their air shuttle and other flight activities.
Right. Also,
So-
I would imagine also flying in equipment and material and stuff
Sometimes, not as much, however, as passengers,
like that.
frankly.
Just people.
Yeah.
Just people.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they're flying regularly to places like Newport News, Virginia, and Washington,
Oh,
D.C.
yes, that makes a lot of sense.
So we have a
Absolutely.
very close relationship with the Navy in that respect.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. All right, so we have these wonderful daytime events, and then you go home 1 o'clock.
You
and
rest
then
up.
You rest up because in the evening you come back.
You come back for the Air and Sea celebration.
Okay.
And we are super excited about the Air and Sea celebration.
Now that's for adults only, right?
That is a 21 plus event
Okay, 'cause
because
there's gonna
there
be
will
alcohol
be a
served.
bar,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
That event is taking place in an airplane hangar. We're working the Mystic Jet Center, the Greater Mystic Chamber of Commerce, and the Groton Business Association are all working together to put this event on. And so it's in the MJC, Mystic Jet Center North Hangar, which is huge. It's an airplane hangar. It's
Right,
absolutely enormous. It's
Right.
everything you envision from seeing airplane hangars on TV and in movies, all right? So we have that. We will have two bands.
Two
we have
bands.
two well-known, very accomplished local bands, the Sue Menhart Band
Oh,
and
yes.
Woolly Mammoth
Okay.
will be playing. We will have food. It's a cocktail party style event, right?
All
It's
right.
not a seated. We want everybody moving around.
And
We will
mingling.
have airplanes in the hangar. We will have airplanes outside of the hangar on the ramp. The way the hangar is constructed, one of the ramp side wall opens up almost completely to make it a three-sided building.
Okay.
So it's an inside, outside. It's going to be an August evening at the shoreline.
nice and cool.
Yes, so
Very
beautiful.
lovely.
So we'll
And,
have food.
Food.
We have
music, obviously.
catering is being provided by two local businesses because it's GBA. We promote our local businesses.
Right.
We
Groton
really
Business
want to support
Association.
them.
Yep.
So the Beacon Bar and Grill, which is a relatively new restaurant out at the airport.
Oh,
They opened up about a year and a half ago now.
Right.
And so they will be sharing the catering with another company called Ray's Catering, which is also located in Groton.
Okay.
And so those two entities will be providing our food, and that should be very interesting.
So we're talking about little hand food, or
We're
we're talking about
talking,
something a
well,
little
you know,
bigger?
people will be milling around,
Right,
circulating,
right.
and there will be a lot of white uniforms because there will be a lot of Navy people
Oh,
attending.
Okay, I was thinking waiters. but
Yeah,
okay,
so,
you're
you know,
thinking-
there will not be, the ribs will not be in a drippy sauce.
They will be the VIPs, really.
That's right. So, you know, hand food, but it's 6 to 9,
Right.
so it's going to be a little more substantial because we don't want you starving before you go out for your dinner at 9.
Right, or drinking
And that too.
without eating.
Yes.
right.
So we'll have a beer and wine bar, and we are featuring Outer Light Brewery, which is here in Groton.
Okay.
And so we will have a whole slew of Navy and aviation activities
Right.
and decor. And you'll have to come so
Oh,
you can see what
absolutely.
all we've got planned for that.
Okay.
It's going to be awfully fun. It is a ticketed event.
Okay.
And you can get discounted tickets by purchasing them in advance
Sure.
at grotonbiz.com.
Oh, okay.
We do, I mentioned the white uniforms, and as Catherine said, they are our guests of honor.
Yes.
So we have a special arrangement for active duty Navy personnel, and they will be able to get BOGO tickets, buy one, get one. And they can be purchased in advance on the sub base at the First Class Association. And they all know where that is.
They
and
know
you
where
and I
that-
don't
no,
have to
I
know.
have no idea. But that's all right. That's all right. I don't have to know.
So we're really encouraging people from all walks
Right.
of life in the community to come. It's going to be a wonderful celebration. We are hoping to get, we're working on plans to get the original Submarine Capital of the World sign from the highway,
okay.
which has been at the Submarine Museum and is now restored. So we want to bring that out and have a photo station where you can take your picture with it.
Oh, how cool.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll have some of the displays from the daytime tour because not everyone will be able to come over. So we're
Yes,
hoping
yes.
that some of the organizations like CAP, for example, the Civil Air Patrol, might be able to bring their displays over and we'll have those.
Okay.
We will have another art exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
The Art on Groton Bank, which, as you know, takes place in July.
July 16th on a Saturday
All right.
from 10 to 4.
There you So Art on Groton Bank, as part of their Submarine Century connection,
Right.
is having a submarine photography juried exhibition
Okay.
with prizes, the whole everything.
Yes.
And
Oh,
they
I
have
didn't know that.
yes, and they have very generously consented to have us have that exhibit at our Air and Sea celebration.
Because it's after the event. Very good,
Right.
very
Okay.
nice.
So
That's great.
before the artwork is returned to the artists, it will be on display to over 250 people at this party. And we are so, all three of us at the table are very interested in art, the arts,
Sure.
and for us to have two very wonderful exhibits
Yes, yes.
at these August 19th events, the Navy exhibit in the main terminal, and then the probably mostly local photographers
Right.
exhibit in the hangar event is just really wonderful.
That
So I'm
is
delighted about
lovely.
that.
That is lovely.
Yeah.
Now, I talked to you earlier. It's the event in the evening. The money is dedicated to.
We will be donating a portion of our proceeds to the Submarine Century, but Submarine Century is merely a holding entity for all monies that are donated during this year-long celebration and
Right.
initiative. And all of those funds go to the USS Groton Sail Project, and that is all about bringing the sail, which is the part above the water,
Okay.
back to Groton for permanent display. The USS Groton has been decommissioned, and it is currently in Bremerton, Washington.
Oh, okay.
And we Groton,
Right.
want to bring it back here to be put permanently on display in our community to honor the submarines, the connection,
Right.
it's a huge part of not just our economy, but our community culture,
Sure.
and has been for for 100 years.
Right. 100 years.
Submarine Century.
Yes. Absolutely.
When you talk to people here in our community, you often find that they have some connection to the sub base
Sure.
or the building of submarines
Absolutely.
in some way or another.
Oh, yeah, definitely. As there are a lot of people who have been in the Coast Guard who decide to
Yes.
retire in this community.
It's a military town.
Exactly.
It really
there's
is.
the Navy, the Coast Guard,
Yeah.
and there's a feeling
National
of
Guard.
camaraderie and respect, and yes, absolutely.
I'm glad you mentioned the Coast Guard because we're working with the U.S. Coast Guard to see what we can do also on National Aviation Day
Oh.
to celebrate Coast Guard centennial because for aviation, they have been in flying for 100 years. So this is also a very special
Oh,
year for them.
yeah. Interesting.
So when we have more, we can share that information once we have it more specific.
Right.
That we're
It's
working on
it's
that.
so interesting that these two services, two branches of the service that we always completely associate with water,
yes.
also have aviation components.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the Navy, of course, for sure, and the Coast Guard. Their
Yeah.
rescue
Oh, yes.
helicopters.
Right.
You think of helicopters,
Yeah.
and they go out and do some unbelievable
Yeah.
saves.
Search and rescue,
Oh,
But also the U.S. Coast Guard has the International Ice Patrol.
Yes.
And it's based in New London, and they use Groton-New London Airport for when they're flying, when they take the aircraft out for the ice patrol of the icebergs.
Yes.
They're flying in and out of here and picking
Wow.
up their staff and crew and all of that here.
That is amazing.
So we have another connection there.
Yeah, with the Coast Guard. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And it, getting back to this whole idea of the culture of this community, I think that, and it extends. I live in Westerly, Rhode Island. Well, we think of the submarines and EB as being part of our community because economically we actually are one and the same. I mean, if
Yes.
the government thinks of us as one and the same, and a lot of people from Westerly work in Groton.
Yes, or in
this-
Quonset also with
Yes, yeah, with the Navy over
with
there.
the electric boat there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, kind of a shared thing. And of course, your federal congressional representation, especially Joe Courtney, has been sort of like instrumental in getting as much as possible. And we've seen it's kind of like a shift. We don't think of it, if you don't live in this area, you don't think about it, because when you think about some of the wars that we're fighting, you don't ever think of submarines, and you don't necessarily think about the Navy. But in fact, they are huge, absolutely huge. And as we've divested from some things, we understand the need for getting those submarines more updated, more technology, and all kinds of other. And then there's the connection between things like the submarines, the military submarines, and some of the technology that's now used in civilian submarines, used for everything from looking for ships that sunk 300 years ago to what the impact on sonar kinds of things, on sea mammals. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of kind of overlap between University of Connecticut, Avery Point, University of Rhode Island. I mean, these with a technical, educational kind of component, and the shared stuff with
The science.
with the military. And it's we often don't realize it, but we incorporate things that the military does well and has usefulness beyond that. Everything from this idea of tang, which was developed, for
Long time ago.
Yeah, right. I mean, it had a military purpose.
That's right.
Up there in space, and lo and behold, people from there have been drinking stuff like that. So I mean, it's silly things, and it's really important stuff.
Yes.
The whole idea of the internet really comes out of a military use, and good stuff comes out, and it becomes useful for the civilian population. So it really, and of course, everybody recognizes the importance financially of EB doing well, and
Yes.
the submarine schools continuing to have more and more young people in there. And it's made if you look at the radical change in you mentioned to me you came from HR, Human Resources, the radical change in just the sailors who are in those submarines is a picture of the change in the American economy. So once upon a time it was these, older guys, and then it became younger guys, and then it became women. I mean, there's this whole evolution in terms of our workforce, which is kind of represented by what just is happening in submarine school.
Yes.
I mean,
Harriet, you mentioned the submarine school, and I think that it is very important to also mention that the submarine school in particular, but also the other commands at the submarine base and throughout their population, provide so much volunteerism to our community.
Right.
In the nonprofit sector, there are many of our local nonprofits who, without the submarine-based volunteers, I don't know what they would do.
Right.
I've come from the nonprofit background, and
Right.
you just give up and go home because they just don't have the manpower at the nonprofits. So that is a very important aspect. And the submarine school is a group of volunteers that work on the airport tour with us.
oh, okay.
We have, on our planning teams for these events, we have people from the submarine base who are working with us throughout the planning process. We will have some submarine-based volunteers at our evening event.
Right.
So they're part of what's making it all move forward in that component also.
How many volunteers did we have last year from the sub base? Approximately.
Close to 20,
Yeah.
And you'll expect probably that many or even
at
more.
least.
Well,
Right.
yes, because we will ask them to help both during the day and in the evening.
Right.
So,
And we've really expanded some of the offerings, like just looking at the daytime tour standalone.
Right.
We have come up with some really interesting additional components.
yeah.
Some ambitious stuff.
Yes, it
Yes,
is quite
right.
ambitious.
So you were telling earlier, originally in the daytime, since this is the third time, 150, then 400. You know, you're looking maybe for 1,000 people to show up.
I don't think we'll have that kind
Okay.
of growth. I think that our huge jump was last year, but I think we will definitely grow again this year.
And and part of that growth would be just the interest in the fact that it's 100 years in terms of the,
I hope
the
so.
submarines.
Yeah.
Although people have to see the connection between, you know, the submarines 100 years and
It's all being
and the aviation.
cross-promoted,
But
too.
And the
that's
airport,
hopefully
yeah.
they're seeing
Right.
this and they're catching on that there's this incredible kind of mixing that's
Synergy.
going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And I'm you know, one of the things that I love about the military is that the military actually paves the way for the rest of the civilian, particularly the workforce. What happens in the military actually impacts indirectly so many of us. So when President Truman integrated the military, that made a huge difference on what went on in the civilian workforce. When the military puts women into its ranks, including submarines, that's making a huge signal for the rest of the civilian population. I don't think we appreciate how important things that happen, and it's because it's a command structure. When the president says, I'm the commander in chief, you do it. They may not like it, they may grumble, but they step in line if they want to stay in the military. And I think that kind of hierarchy, which allows things to happen at a much faster pace than happens, you know, when you have all kinds of different kinds of companies. So I think we don't appreciate how much change, a dramatic change has happened. Not allowing differences in terms of housing, all of those kinds of constructs which the military makes happen, which the rest of the civilian population follows, if not immediately, later on.
Filters down,
Exactly,
becomes, and
I don't
eventually
think
becomes
there's-
commonplace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think there's
It's
an
true.
appreciation for how much change has occurred in our society just because things happen in the military. And I think that's really important. The idea that you know, women can be helicopter pilots, that women can be in submarines, that gives inspiration for young girls who might show up at these events and they say, oh, wait a minute, I could do this. I could be a helicopter operator. I could be in the Coast Guard and go on ice patrol. I can do a lot of stuff that, if it hadn't been for the military, probably a lot of civilian things wouldn't take place. So I think that it's something that we don't simply appreciate. The other thing about submarines and building them is that they're such technological giants in terms of the kinds of things that are in them. And things that make them important. And so I think, you know, you go and see a movie, it doesn't give you the same appreciation as when you get and see stuff, and then you kind of recognize, oh yeah.
Have you been on the Nautilus?
I've been at the Submarine Museum, yes.
Because I hear from people all the time who it's actually the third biggest tourist draw in our area.
Wow.
After the aquarium in the seaport. And I hear over and over from people who have never been on it before. And okay, it's over 60 years old now. It's like 62 years ago. But it gives that feel, even though it's probably, what, 1/4 of the size, if that, of a modern
current,
submarine.
Right.
But it gives the feel of what it must have been like. And, you know, having the opportunity to experience that for people is a real lesson learned. Once you go to the Submarine Museum, you realize that why it's the third largest tourist draw
Right.
in our
Right.
area
Right. I
because
mean,
it's fascinating.
We wouldn't have gone, but we had some friends come from New York, and they said, "Let's go. I really want to
Isn't
see
that
it."
how the locals always go to these things?
Exactly. And they said and then we went and we thought, "Oh my God, this is absolutely incredible." And I must say, my brother started out to be in the submarines. He's a nuclear engineer, and he started out, but actually they train you, and he was a little claustrophobic. So
That's a problem on a submarine.
it is, and so
Yes.
he went on to serve on a destroyer. But that's the kind of flushing out, because this was what he thought he was going to do. He was an ROTC. Everything was definitely, this is exactly what he wanted. But when he's training, that's when he gets on there and says, "Oh my God,
Yeah,
this
that's deal breaker.
yeah, it's a little too small."
Well, I wanted to pick up on something that you talked about, and that is the people side of things. Because these events that are happening on August 19th, not only do they give you a chance to see the airport or to see the aircraft or the equipment or the hangars or the equipment that's being used to support the airplane activity on the airport, but you get to talk to the people who do the work or the people who are doing something for the love of it. And you can catch the fever, in a sense, by listening to them talk about it and show you things that they love. So whether it's coming in to talk to the Civil Air Patrol, or going out to talk to the pilots who own those aircraft, and they talk about what they do and how they got involved. Or if you're talking to the Navy personnel themselves, the submarine sailors and so forth. It's what you hear from them, and it's being able to look in their eyes, listen to what they have to say, that brings things to life. And that's the special opportunity of a day like August 19th.
Right.
Both in the day and the evening.
Right.
So-
I think that you're true. I mean, very few of us actually worked in our lives and were really happy with what we did. And here, I bet you're going to meet a group of people.
That's unfortunate.
You're going to meet a group of people who are quite dedicated. And you think about Civil Patrol and it just being in the Navy. I mean, these are people who go in there. Most of them go in when they're kids and they come out as polished adults, and it's that training that helps them. And most of them wouldn't stay if they didn't have that enthusiasm for what goes on.
Now, here at Groton-New London Airport also, we have something very unique to the state of Connecticut, which is we have our summer aviation camp. And we have 2 sessions, 1 week each. One is coming up in July, and one is coming up in August. And they are instructed by 2 volunteer instructors who are very knowledgeable about aviation and aerospace, and they are both from the Lisbon, excuse me. It's the Lisbon School District.
Okay.
So they will be also at National Aviation Day during our open house. And families who are interested will have a chance to find out more about those camps, not just for this year, because it would be over by then.
Right.
But
for next year.
Yes, and those are for middle school students.
Middle school, boys and girls?
Boys and girls.
Absolutely,
And
boys and girls.
It's an FAA-sanctioned curriculum, and they actually receive certificates that are signed by the FAA once they complete the training.
Wow.
And the purpose of it is to be introduced to aviation, and it is the only one in the state of Connecticut.
Wow.
So we are very fortunate to have that
Now,
at our airport.
At this taping, it's still possible for
Yes.
parents
The first
to-
week is July 25th, and the
Okay.
second one is the first week of August.
Okay.
And so, yes, people can get in touch they can look at the airport website and get in touch with me, or they can Google ACE Camp, which stands for Aviation Careers and Education Camp.
Oh, cool
And then
name.
they just click on the state, which is Connecticut, and it will automatically come to this camp.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. And
So-
and how is it like all day long? How does
It's
it work?
all day for a week, Monday through Friday, and it starts at the airport. Sometimes they go on
Field trips?
to
Yeah.
other locations.
Yep.
For example, last year they went to the air traffic control tower at Bradley Airport and went up and visited with the
wow.
controllers. So they get to do a lot of interesting things. They make rockets and they do a lot of work with simulators and so forth, and then the computer as well.
That is great.
So, and it's for middle school students
Wow.
up through 9th grade.
Wow. So you'd say from 6 to 9 or 7 through 9?
Yes, 6 through 9.
6 through 9. And the place to go again, ACE, A-C-E,
Camp.
camp?
Yes.
And then
Just Google
obviously look
that
for
and it will
Connecticut.
come up and it'll show the camp in Connecticut.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
so
if they
that's very special.
Yeah, so again, if they're interested, there's still time
Yes.
by the airing of this
Oh,
to
absolutely.
get your kids interested. And what a very different kind of summer camp experience for
Yeah.
a kid.
Yeah.
And how many kids do they typically have?
They've had 10 or 12 maximum each
Okay.
week.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's very intense.
Yeah. And it all happens right at Mystic Jet Center and then also around on the airport and our
And the
other
kid
venues.
that has no requirements about having to know anything?
Nothing. No.
Nothing.
You just have to be the right age and have
right.
an interest.
Yes.
A genuine interest because you are there for 5 days.
Right.
Every day. But it's lots of fun.
I would imagine.
Yeah. And we love
sure.
having the young people there.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so
We could go if we were just a little bit younger.
yeah, just a little bit. Maybe my grandchildren can go. And again, July 25th?
Yeah, that's the first week.
Okay, it's a Monday,
Yeah.
and then the following week.
Yes. I'm not sure exactly the date, but
Okay, all
it's
right.
available online.
ACE camp,
Yeah.
ACE camp, and then Connecticut.
Yes.
That's great. So
Yeah.
people who are interested, get
Yeah.
their kids interested. It's something I would classify as unique.
Oh,
as
absolutely.
as an experience. Absolutely. And do kids come back, or they just do it once?
We've actually had students return, yes.
Oh, because they're so interested.
Yeah,
There's
because
so much
they
more
don't
to
do
learn.
the same thing every year.
Ah, okay. That is.
And obviously at that age too, what you absorb and what you understand at 1 year, a year later, you understand at a much higher level.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
greater
definitely.
depth of understanding.
And it's right at the airport.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
You know, Harriet, you mentioned, or Catherine, you mentioned the field trip to the control tower at Bradley, and it's not unique, but it is unusual for the smaller general aviation airports to have our own tower, correct?
Yeah, some airports do have them. They're contract towers with the FAA, and we have one at Groton-New London Airport, and also the Connecticut Airport Authority has 2 other airports that we operate that have contract towers. However, if you can imagine that in the state of Connecticut, we have over 100 landing fields of some type,
Wow.
helicopters, turf airports, paved airports and so forth. So very few of them have air traffic control towers. Most airports in the country, around the world in fact, are non-controlled tower
Really?
airports.
So,
So
who
it's
do
something
they
else
ask
that
to
makes
go?
us special.
They talk to each other on the radio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a see and be seen idea.
All right, got to make sure that those little drones aren't see and be seen too.
Absolutely not.
That's adding another dimension to aviation around
Right,
airports.
exactly. So are there some more events that you want to tell the audience about before August?
Let's see. Well, we mentioned Art on Groton Bank.
Yes.
That's a
July
really
16th.
nice one on July
at the-
16th.
at the
Bigger
Bill
than
Mo-
ever
Bill Memorial Library.
in the city of Groton.
Right.
And it is the Bill Memorial Library is located right next to Fort Griswold State Park. So look for the monument, and that's your landmark.
Right.
For people who haven't been there before. And you and I already know that it is a stunning site
Oh, yes.
with, you've got the fort right there, so that's a must do if you're in that neighborhood. And the views of the river and across to New London and down to the Sound, it is really something. You can climb to the top of the monument if you dare. I think it's 160 or 70 some steps.
Right.
And you can, from
and
up there, you
meantime,
can see
you're going to have the
everything.
tour again of the historical
I
houses.
believe that there is, again, the architectural walking tour. I know that there are the artists in various mediums, of course.
And I will be there.
Harriet Grayson will be
Harriet
there.
Grayson will be there doing a little play reading.
Oh,
Because Harriet Grayson, under the pen name of Anastasia Goodman, writes mysteries, starring a white immigrant cop patrolling multiracial, multi-ethnic Coney Island, Brooklyn, New York.
In what year was that?
Current.
Oh, current setting.
Yes,
Oh.
current setting. Yes, yes. So I've taken the flavor of my character's called Sasha Perlov. So I've taken that Russian flavor, and I've incorporated that into the books, and then I've made this play, which actually deals, I think, with the whole issue of white cops and black suspects in volatile areas, and how to prevent things from getting uncontrolled rather than controlled. And believe me, there are ways to do it. So it's
Interesting.
an interesting opportunity. And I will be joined by other artists at there.
There will be authors, there will be music,
Yes.
there will be food, of course, because
Of course,
you have to have food, everything.
Food. Everything is food.
So I know that they are already at twice the number of artists that they had last year.
That's wonderful.
So they've really experiencing a lot of growth, and
Yes.
that's exciting.
Yes, it is.
For Submarine Century, there are several other things that are in the works that are definitely scheduled.
Right.
There are a number of concerts coming up. The Coast Guard is doing a series of concerts. Some of those will be at Avery Point, some will be at Eastern Point Beach. All of them are free.
Right.
There are some events of the lecture series, I believe, done that are still coming up. And those cover all aspects of community and submarines and the
Right.
connections and
Right.
history and whatnot. The Groton Public Library is doing a Monday matinee movie series, and each of those movies is something to do with submarines,
Oh, how
which is
wonderful.
fun. Yeah, and that goes
Yes.
on for a good part of the summer.
Oh, good, good, good.
When are we airing this show?
Next Tuesday.
All right, next Tuesday. Perfect. Next Tuesday, on June 21st, is the Submarine Birthday Bash, and that will be at Washington Park from 4 till 7. It is a huge birthday party, open to all, music, food, entertainment, the whole Megillah. And it is to celebrate the official and actual 100th birthday of the establishment of the submarine base and the submarine school.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. So that's June 21st.
June 21, 4 to 7
4
at
to 7,
Washington Park
And Washington Park is
in the city of Groton.
in the city of Groton. Okay, because there's lots of Washington Parks around.
There's only one in our town.
There's only one in Groton. Okay, wonderful, wonderful to hear that.
And
So
the
there's
final,
one thing that we need.
Go.
On June 21st, we need great weather.
We
And
do.
we need great weather on August 19th, too.
Well, you say it's inside, outside, so you,
Well, our walking tours and all those activities, we have been so fortunate.
We
have
have.
wonderful weather.
We do want
And we
perfect
always
weather.
encourage everybody when they come to be dressed for the weather.
Okay.
So if it's sunny, be prepared for real
Heat.
sunshine.
Right.
Wear those hats, sunglasses, sunblock.
Right.
And wear walking shoes because you do a lot of walking.
All right.
If it's windy, it's going to be windier. So we
It's
want
the
it to
extreme
be
weather
nice.
zone.
Yeah,
Right,
we want it to
exactly.
be nice weather for these various outdoor events.
Yes.
All right.
So I'll ask you to please pray for that.
Okay, I'll pray to the gods of all for
Yeah.
good
And
weather.
The final, there, ctsubmarinecentury.com.
That's the one, that's the
All
one.
of the listings, there are still, I added another listing this morning.
Okay.
So
It's
it
in flux
changes,
and
keep
pos-
going,
yes.
keep going back.
Yes.
And the final and unofficial event at the end of the season for Connecticut Submarine Century will be the annual Groton Fall Festival, which
Oh,
of
in
course
October.
is a GBA.
Yes,
Which is
right.
a
We
lot
have
of fun.
participated
Yeah.
as a
And
at
that-
SECTV.
Yeah,
every
that's
year
big. It's
we
big
participate.
fun.
Yeah.
We are in our 11th year, and that is at Paquonic Plains Park
Okay.
in the town of Groton.
Well,
And
I
that's
want to
always a
thank
Saturday.
want to thank my guests for coming and
Thank
to talk
you.
about these wonderful events coming up. August 19th,
Friday.
July 16th, all the dates. I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you,
Thank
Harriet.
you for
Nice
having
to
us,
meet you.
Harriet.
Very good. And this is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer of Community Culture Showcase. Come and join us again for my other guests. Thank you, and watch us always.